All right, so with this one, I'm having a feeling that most of you are, you've shaded in your face and now it's time to shade in your hair. So I'm going to try and cover different types of hair with the charcoal, different types of textures. And I'm actually going to pull from pictures that are on Schoology that you guys have given me. I'm not going to show the pictures because it's just going to not work out that way with how I have my setup here. But I'm going to try and go through different types of hair types. So if you had curly hair, so in theory, you would have already had this shape drawn for your hair, right? So here I have some willow, and basically that's always what you want to do first is put willow down the shape of your hair. And so this person's hair that I'm drawing is a little curly or wavy. So I've just kind of put a little bit of willow down. And then what I always like to do next is I always like to use my pencil top eraser or my kneaded eraser. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. And what I like to do next, I have to put that there because that's her forehead. I know you can't see it. What I like to do next is I like to come in and erase the highlights and see how the hair is a little bit curly and wavy. And so I'm erasing the highlights or the lighter areas of the hair. Can I get every single strand? No, probably not. But I want to get the general idea of it. And then after I've erased with my pencil top eraser, which I like to use, then I can sprinkle in with my 2B or my 6B pencil the darker areas. Really dark areas, I kind of overlap and layer because it makes it darker. I'm not pressing hard. I'm just kind of throwing in little lines. I'm kind of following how I erased out those lighter shapes. And then when I smooth it out, I'm kind of pressing it down. So this is her forehead, which is light here. And then maybe to accent that bit of hair, I put a little bit of charcoal pencil there. And then after I have come in and added the darker tones or the darker lines, then I have to come back and bring out my highlights again. It's always a back and forth when you're doing hair of eraser and charcoal pencil. And now I'm kind of getting into the area that I don't have much erased, so I'm kind of putting in. And so when you're doing your hair, you kind of want to see those lines. You want to see that texture. You don't just want it to be a big block of darkness. Okay, you want to be able to see that texture. Usually where it's really dark next to the person's face, yeah, that'll be kind of like a dark patch of color. That's what that is. I know you don't see the person's face at all, so it's kind of weird. So there are times you do, but most of the time it's trying to see these lights and dark lines. Am I going to get every single curl? No. It's almost turning into an idea of her hair, not like her actual hair, because that's really... All right, so there's just one example, and then I'm going to bring you more examples. Okay, so now some guys have really short hair. All right, and so it's kind of like, well, what do I do for short hair? Well, actually not much. Guys kind of have it easy. It just depends on their hair. So the one that I'm looking at here has really, really short, close black hair to his head. So again, and here I am, I'm just kind of doing the shape of the hair and the head. And I willowed it all in because that's always like my rough draft. Okay, so this one's pretty easy. Instead of like fully just coloring it in, you still do want to have hints of texture. So this person's hair, it's just really short, and there are small little waves or curves or curls. So I'll see how I'm just using, I think I'm using my 2B. I'm just using my 2B pencil, but y'all can use your 6B. It's really up to you. I'm just using my charcoal pencil, and see, I'm just making these little circles and just going over each other. And probably won't have to do much after that. It's really dark up here, so I will probably layer it more up here near the top, or maybe I will come in and use my 6B pencil and get it a little bit darker, even easier. I'm probably not going to blend this in too much because I don't want to take away from the texture that I've just created. And see how they're just tight, tiny little circles on top of each other just to create this texture. And then down here, or when it gets close to the forehead, maybe it's not as much, so I'm kind of lightly feathering it in. Down here, it's kind of turning into like a gradient, and because of the values, I'm kind of lightening it up. And then maybe I will kind of use my eraser to kind of come in also in like little circles to kind of, and your eraser can do a lot if you haven't discovered that yet. Kind of blends it a little bit sometimes, so I'm kind of lightening that up. Because really this person's forehead is actually really light right here. But I don't want it to be like super light, so I'm kind of trying to soften that. Maybe I need to come back and darken this. So it's not going to be a block of color, usually. So I'm kind of coming back and I'm darkening areas. Maybe I'll come back over where I erased to kind of reinforce that texture if it kind of got blurry or smoothed. If your pencil top eraser gets dirty, the way to clean it is, on a clean piece of paper. If that's getting frustrating to you, kind of wipe off the extra charcoal like that. Same thing with your kneaded eraser. If that gets dirty, you stretch it and pull it apart so that it gets clean that way. Okay, that's another example of hair. All right, so this one is somebody that has like braids in their hair, and these are kind of small braids. So again, here's going to be like the shape of the braid and where it's going on this person's head. So I'll just kind of throw in a couple. Okay, and then I soften it with my willow. That's always what you do first. See how I'm always doing willow first. And then I can kind of put in just like a basic shape for a braid, this kind of overlapping shape. So I can use my eraser first or my pencil first. So I'm going to kind of do this X type thing with my eraser. And I know because your braids have to have a little bit of light on them. They have to. Everything does, because there was hopefully light when you took your picture. All right, so there's kind of like this X idea. And then I come in, and on the other part of that light area is going to be your darker lines. I'm going to use my 2B because my 6B was getting too dark. So I'm kind of doing this X type pattern, but it's not a true X. Then after I do it, I need to always kind of come back and soften it, and then it's kind of like, well, it looks like you're erasing the whole thing. Well, then I'm going to have to work back at it again. Because I want to be able to see those lines. And I probably should have made my willow a bit darker because you can't see my highlights very well. And I'll give myself another excuse to get out of this mess that I've created is I don't have the forehead underneath, so that's also not helping matters. It's just these two like lines, so it's not looking too hot. But the important thing is trying there to get to be this texture of the hair that's in the braids. Let's see what it looks like up there. No, it doesn't look too bad. I should probably bring this lower. I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right, I'm gonna get another example. All right, so this one, maybe this person's a boy and they have a little bit of extra hair up here on top, and there's a little bit of a curl to it, or a curve, or a wave. So here's like that hair on top. There would be their eyes, whatever. So again, I fill it in. I fill in the shape of the hair with my willow and I soften it. And then I'm going to try and pick out the highlights that are happening in the hair. And they might be curving a little bit because this person has wavy hair. Am I going to get every single highlight? No. Just trying to get the main ones throughout, make them pop out a little bit. Maybe you do get every highlight. I don't know. I'm just trying to get the general idea of this hair. So after I've done that, I use my pencils. I'm going to go back to my 2B. I feel like I have more control with the 2B because it's just not as soft. So it's a little harder, so I can control how dark and soft things get, especially when I'm working with this hair. So see how I'm like kind of feathering in these lines where I was using my eraser because I don't want to go completely over them. And if I do, that's okay. I can always use my eraser. And so like right here, I'm just kind of going around them or in between those highlights. And again, you can't see, but I'm looking up at my my reference constantly to look back and forth to make sure I'm getting stuff. And then like right over here, maybe it's a little bit darker, so I overlap it and I layer it more. Now I think I need to come back and take out highlights. So I'm kind of like bringing the light back into it. And yeah, you can hear me blowing on my paper because you have to be careful not to smudge all this stuff away. Maybe I need to clean my eraser a little bit. And it's nice, and maybe hopefully by now your pencil top eraser isn't like super stumpy because it's nice to have one that still has that nice edge to it. What am I doing there? Well, this person has a bit of shadow of their pieces of their hair on their forehead. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. We'll just keep doing up here. Maybe I'm using my 6B now so I can get this to be a little bit darker. And I'm feathering it in. Okay. So that's just another example of hair and how to bring in dark in line with your pencils and your eraser. All right, this next one, if you're still with me, I was super excited when I flipped through pictures on this one, because this is another boy, and he has a lot of hair on top of his head here. But the lighting is really, really good, and I was like, oh, I've got to do this one. Miss Norton. Personally, I love drawing portraits. Love drawing hair. I just love everything about it. But that's, I guess, why I'm an art teacher. And this one that I'm drawing right here, it's kind of a challenge, and that's fun. I know, again, that you might not like challenges, but it's fun to be challenged because you grow each time you are challenged. You might not think you do, but you do. Okay, so I kind of did a rough little shape of this guy's hair. Kind of looks like a little helmet right now. So it's doing this fun, like, swoop over here. So see how I'm drawing with my eraser. So this person's hair, sorry, I'm doing like a fun, so I'm drawing with my eraser, and there's a lot of crazy highlights all over the place. That's a good thing. That's okay. All right, so now, after I've kind of done some of this, so now I want to use my pencils to start bringing in the dark areas. And again, I like to start with my 2B pencil because it doesn't get as dark as I'm kind of putting in these starter values. And I had to pay attention to the direction that this hair is moving. That's super important. Again, you know, it can't just be a glob of hair. There I had to change the direction several times. Now I'm going into the highlights. Sometimes there's shapes of darkness that are a little bit thicker, thinner. After you add it, you just kind of soften it and press on it. It's darker over here, so I'm gonna like darken that more, like layering it. What is this? This is an eyebrow. I'm putting an eyebrow there because this person's hair goes into the eyebrow. And I'm having so much fun with this. I wanted to get it nice and close to what this hair is actually doing. And some of my lines or strokes are shorter, some are longer. It just depends on what the hair is doing. It's kind of crazy over here. There's a lot of stuff going on. And sometimes if you have like light colored hair, you may have to add a little bit of willow around your hair or in the background, because then once you add the willow, then you can erase away the lighter highlights that are just kind of popping out. But then sometimes you do have to come through and kind of bring in the pencil back in to kind of accentuate that stuff. need to get more up here. Ew. What's that? And now that I've kind of was happy with what was happening, the back part of the hair, now I'm kind of trying to re-go over and take out some of those highlights to make them pop some more. With my eraser I was. Now I'm back to this. No, I'm back to this. See? It changes pretty quickly. Pencil, eraser, pencil, eraser. All right, I'm going to call that one okay. Maybe I'll do another example here in a second. All right, so here's another one. So again, maybe your hair is really, really dark. But again, there has to be some highlights somewhere, hopefully, in it. Oh no, I can see the line from underneath. Oh well. So let's say it's super dark. So again, willow first. And then again, I'm going to come back and look at where I see highlights and erase them out. Maybe that's all I really see in this one, in this hair. And this can work for people with slightly wavy hair or straight hair. Of course, it just depends. So it's probably usually darker near like the root or the base. I'm trying to sprinkle in and again, I still want to see these this texture of my hair, these lines. I don't want it just to be a flat color, and then I need to come back and take out my highlight. So I strictly used 6B with this one just because it was pretty dark to begin with. See, I'm kind of like coming in from different directions to kind of bring it into it. Right, there's that one. All right, here's another one, if you're still with me. So maybe this time it's again dark hair, but again, it's like really close together and like little small like curves. Texture is really tight together. So here's just kind of a little bit. So again, I fill it in with willow first. And then maybe I'll use I'm going to use my eraser, I guess, first to maybe erase out the lighter places, the lighter shapes. And then, just kind of like earlier, it's just going to be small. And I'm using my 6B because I know I need it to get pretty dark. Maybe I'll just slightly put a little bit in there. And the rest of it can be pretty dark, but it's not about pressing super hard, it's about layering it. Just little circles. I still see a little bit of the gray through. That's okay because I still want to see that little texture. Maybe I kind of soften it with my finger a little bit, and I don't really need to like blend it in. So it's not, you know, sitting there and coloring it in. Okay, that's not really ever a thing. I've never done that this whole time. You know, I'm paying attention to what does my hair do? What is the shape of my hair? What kind of texture does it have? And that's how I'm trying to replicate it with my pencil and my eraser. Maybe the highlighted areas, I just kind of sprinkle a little bit of that in just to be able to see it. Got a little bit darker over here, so that's why there aren't as many highlights. Again, I kind of erase out. Maybe I'll change to like my 2B. There's that one. All right, well, I think I'm going to stop it there. Hopefully that helps a little bit when you're shading in your hair. Obviously, if you need help, come to a WebEx, or you can schedule like a one-on-one WebEx with me, and I can show you how to do other things too. And that's that.